So presentation today is called How Small Businesses Can Win at Digital Marketing in 2020. Next slide. So the agenda, so what we're going to talk about is first, we're going to talk about from a high level how marketing channels evolve. And we're going to keep this really, really high and really theoretical. And the reason for this is the goal is I want you guys to be able to start to evaluate different marketing channels based on where they're at in their life cycle as a product. And that'll make more sense in a second. And then once we're able to do that, we can cross-reference it with resources we have available and the audience that we want to go after to make a decision if a channel is right for us and make sure if we're able to actually go into it and execute on it. From there, we'll then go in and talk to you about strategies for winning at marketing based on the life cycle of where a marketing channel is in its evolution. And I'm going to run that in parallel, talking about what channels are actually working in 2020, tying it back to the strategies, tying it back to where they are in their life cycle. Next slide, please. All right, so you guys may have seen this graph before. This is what's called the product adoption curve. And so with this is how when a new product is brought to market, this is how it is adopted by the mass market or not adopted by the mass market. So this smaller line here, this is what happens when a new product gets brought to market, and you have kind of the innovators, the early users of the product, maybe some adopters, and then it flatlines and just kind of plateaus as time increases in the future. And then what happens when a product is adopted by the masses, right? It starts off, you gotta have the smaller group, innovators, early adopters, and then as time goes on, you'll have majority, late majority, and laggards. So as time increases, market penetration increases as well. Now the reason I bring this up is because all marketing channels are products, right? No marketing channel comes into existence with the sole purpose to market and sell things. Facebook, Instagram, TV, radio, they're all brought and they add value in the form of being able to hold our attention through education, entertainment, inspiration, whatever it is. And because their main value is holding attention, then to monetize those products, people run ads and they market on those different channels. So what ends up happening is as products end up growing and get more following, they become marketing channels. And this graph is really just skewed to the right in terms of the amount of marketers that flood in and start using this channel for the purposes of selling product or services, right? Next slide, please. And so what this does is we can start to identify different stages of that life cycle and start talking about strategies that we can deploy at each of those stages in order to take advantage of where a product is at. So for example, right, when a product is first released and it's early adopters, if you can get into that platform first, there's advantages for being the first one to market on a platform. As a product evolves, the way that they evolve, it makes it easier to switch your marketing efforts into being a niche or really niching down and narrowing your message. And then as a product evolves even more, or as a marketing channel evolves even more, you really only way to win is to be the best at what you do and or have a lot of money to spend on that specific platform, right? And then there's this last one, be everywhere, and I didn't put that on here, but I'll explain that when I get to it. Next. So let's talk about the strategies. First, be early. So why should you be early to a platform for a marketing channel? One, because there is no competition. And all of these marketing platforms, all these marketing channels, the more competition comes in, the more prices rise. And as a small business, there's gonna be a certain point where the prices rise too much and that it doesn't make sense for profitability for us to be in that specific channel. All right. Another benefit is that the organic reach is really high at this point for a new product, especially on digital. Right? These products, when they first released, they need to get more users, they need to grow. And so the reach on the platform is very large because the more people use it and get value out of it, the more they'll talk about it off platform. And then the more that the platform has the potential to actually grow. And so what I put up here, this is an example, a little graph of the cost per clicks on Google Ads from 2010 to 2018. And I put this up here to show there's basically 100% growth in click cost from 2010 to 2018. I really wanted to find one that was back to 2000, 2001 when it first launched, because the click prices all the way back then were like a penny, 5 cents, versus the averages here are in like the 40s or 50 cents. So if this was to extend out to the left even more, you'd see that, man, the prices were really dirt cheap, and a lot of fortunes were made by people being the first to run ads on Google Ads before competition flooded in and the prices rose drastically. All right. So then, what's working now in 2020? All right. So the first example I have is actually not a great example because it's a really mature platform already, which is LinkedIn. However, for whatever reason, the organic reach on LinkedIn is incredibly high right now. Really, really high. You can have one post, and if you have 400 connections on LinkedIn, you can have 800, 1,200 people see it, depending on the engagement and how good the post is, versus something on other platforms like a Facebook or an Instagram, you're not going to be able to get that reach on the regular. TikTok is another one. We've talked about that to you guys before. TikTok is maturing up as a platform as we speak, and TikTok influencers, TikTok famous is happening every single day. People do a post, it blows up, they all of a sudden have millions and millions of followers. The organic reach on TikTok is higher than any platform I've ever seen, ever. You could do a post, have 0 followers, and you can have hundreds of people see it, if not thousands of people see it, the way that the platform works.
If your market is teenage girls.
No, it's aged up drastically now. So that's a mistake. Don't get into that mindset. The digital world evolves so quickly that 6 months ago, yeah. Now it has evolved so quickly. There's major advertisers on this platform all the time. And it's only, The Rock is on it. Like all these celebrities are getting on the platform. It's aging up very, very, very quickly. And the problem with this strategy is that those opportunities, if you don't jump on them, they're gonna be gone. And you have to wait till the next one comes around. So it's tough to sleep on opportunities like this. Moving into more on the paid side, right? There's 3 different channels that are really cost-effective, paid, depending on your business. Pinterest. Pinterest is very cheap in terms of CPMs, so cost per 1,000 views, $2 to $5 CPMs right now, and 5 cents a click is what I've seen running ads on that, if not cheaper. Great place to be if you know your audience, our visual industry, and want to take advantage of that. Instagram stories, Instagram story ads are again another great cost now. Very low CPMs, $10 and below, and that's a great place. Again, Instagram is a more mature of a platform, but the product of Instagram stories is new, and the ads on it are relatively new. So now is a good time to take advantage of that while the prices are low. And then finally, for these examples, influencers. Influencer marketing is a great place to be because, again, it's new-ish, but really people just don't know how to price themselves. So you can get a really good deal, especially for your product, by going and finding people who have 2,000 or 5,000 followers, micro and nano influencers, and just bargaining. Some people just even take product. You can just give them free product and they'll post your stuff. And it's very underpriced, very cost effective, and it's a really good way to get high engagement because people trust the influencers when they put the stuff out. Next. All right, so the second strategy. So we start seeing kind of an evolution of an ad platform, and what ends up happening, again, as I mentioned, competition comes in, prices start to rise. So then what do? Well, as platforms evolve, their targeting tends to get really, really good, or the strategy is to just really niche down and know your audience as well as possible and speak to very specific targeted people, right? And that enables you to keep the ad costs down as a platform matures because the message is going to be much more relevant and much more contextual, and the ad platforms really like that, so then they keep the costs down. So this picture up here, this is just all of the different targeting options on Facebook right now. Location, age, gender, languages, detailed targeting for criteria like demographics, interests, behaviors, connections. Are they connected to your page? Are they connected to somebody else's page? Custom audiences, retargeting. There's a ton of different ways that if you think about it really hard and figure out who you want to target, that you can really niche down. Now, the one caveat here, and especially the caveat as this starts to go up higher and higher, it does take a lot of work. Right? It starts being more and more difficult the more platform is because competition comes in and everybody starts to figure this stuff out. Now, what's working now? All right, so I put up Nextdoor on here. Nextdoor has been around since 2010. I think I've talked about it to you guys before. It really could, because it just released a new ad product, so it really could be considered back in the be early. But I kept them in here because it's a very niche channel, very local business oriented. But I do want to let you guys in on the secret, which is they just launched an ad platform. Like, I don't know, I just checked last night. I've been checking, must be in the past like weeks or months. But Nextdoor launched an ad platform for local businesses, was only for national businesses before. Everyone should be there now. The prices are going to be the lowest it could possibly be.
It's next door, like you have Crown, the area over there in Gaithersburg, and they have these local community website or chat sites.
Yes.
Stuff where like if people need a plumber, if they need something,
Yes.
they ask for everybody within the community for ideas on what they need. Is that kind of the platform for those things?
That is the platform for Nextdoor.
Okay.
I don't know how the local ads product works. I don't know if it constricts you to neighborhoods. They had a realtor version of this before, and what they did is you would buy zip codes, and so you could choose a certain amount of zip codes. And my guess is that's what this local business ad platform does as well. But I haven't actually used the ad platform. But just, again, going off of what we talked about in terms of the be early and be niche strategy, right? We know that new platforms coming in, prices are going to eventually rise. So now's the time to get in, test it out, see if it works for you. And right, again, because these prices aren't going to be around, right? Next one, YouTube is a very mature platform, but YouTube has pre-roll ads. So if you watch YouTube, you can see the ad, right, that runs before you start watching your video. Well, what you can do is you can run YouTube pre-roll ads targeted towards people who do searches for your industry. So if I went movers near me, I can run an ad on YouTube for just people who searched movers near me. And that is incredibly powerful because A, it's very targeted, high search intent, but B, nobody's really doing it. So again, the costs are very low now relative to other platforms, or even if I ran those same ads on Google, the cost is going to be very low. So that's, again, a great place to be. And back to the niche, it's niche because you can get niched in and target the audience that you're going after very specifically based on their intent. And then I have Facebook and Instagram on here. They are maturing as platforms, but I have them up here because their targeting options are so granular and so tight that it's still effective to run ads on them, though again, it's getting more and more difficult as we speak. Next. Be the best. All right, so once a platform gets to a certain maturity level, then really your only way to compete is to cut through the noise and be better than everyone else. And TV, I don't know if there's any digital ads, digital channels that are here yet, but TV is the prime example. None of us are buying TV spots. If we did, it'd be late night infomercials, and we're not gonna get the ROI. They're gonna be too expensive, right? There's only one spot that's really good to buy in terms of ads relative, and that's the Super Bowl spot, because there's tons of eyeballs on it, but there are millions and millions of dollars for that spot. And in order to be effective, you still have to be the best because the competition is so high. All the best companies bring out the big guns to try. Yeah.
Also, those millions and millions of eyes, you probably only want 200,000 of them.
Right. Yeah.
So you're throwing a lot of money at essentially the version of clicks that you don't want.
Right. Exactly. It's a very much, and that's why the ads, they even tend to skew away from like even showcasing product very heavily. Right. It's more of a branding opportunity at this point. Right.
Yeah, but during the Super Bowl, there is a brief time that you do have local ads. The channel. During the show.
Yeah.
They do.
There is.
Yeah, so it might be cost effective, and I don't know what prices are for local TV ads during the Super Bowl, but it's probably not cost effective for us, but it could potentially be. But then what I put up here as an example is the Harmon Brothers is a creative agency that I really love, and I put them up here just because they're really fucking good. They put out amazing ads. Highly recommend, go check out. My favorites are Squatty Potty, Chapbooks, and Purple. Check out those ads, just YouTube them, look them up. They are the perfect mix of like hilarious, but also branding and then direct selling, all mixed into the same ads. And companies like this who are able to execute at such a high level, right, they are incredibly expensive to purchase, but the cost of inventory drops drastically because they're so good. I'm talking about it to you guys now. So now you'll go look, they'll get views on what these products are without spending any additional money. And that's what ends up happening. And that's how you are able to cut through the noise here, is you're so good that people talk about you and you don't have to pay for that inventory of ad space anymore. Not a strategy in general that any of us are really going to be able to execute on at a high level. It takes too much money, it takes way too much effort. It's not going to return the ROI. So basically the point here is once a platform hits a certain level of maturity, it's aged out of where we should even be playing because we can't afford it anymore. Next. The final strategy, right? Be everywhere. And this is where we as an agency are going very, very hard in right now. And the reason for this is that you're not competing with attention on a single channel, right? You're competing, people are on multiple channels, and your audience is fractured across multiple channels, right? I might be on LinkedIn and Instagram and TikTok. Those are my go-tos. I don't really go on Facebook too much anymore besides work, but you guys might be on Facebook right now. But then you might switch over to YouTube, or maybe you're on Snapchat or Pinterest, and everybody's audience is very, very fractured. And so if you're not putting out content on as many channels as possible, you're missing out on opportunities to get in front of your target audience. And what's great about, again, all these platforms, as I mentioned, is once they hit a certain level of maturity, you can be everywhere, but also be super niche, because the targeting options, the followers that you have, the connections that you make, enable you to get very niche and incredibly cost effective. Now, the example I really like, and that ties into this strategy, I might have talked about it with a couple of you, is being everywhere, especially on social media, is just an extension of networking, right? So if I were to go to a networking event and I have a one-on-one conversation with somebody and it goes really well, and we connect on LinkedIn, and then I'm putting out content on the regular on LinkedIn, now they're seeing my content over and over. So there's multiple touch points, and if the content is good, now they're seeing they're getting value every time they log in to the content that I'm putting out. And the more value that I give, the better. And so now instead of one-on-one touch points, you're networking at scale, right? And it's a great way, you guys are all here and you know the value of networking, and we have other networking events we go to, but what if you could continue to make those connections when you're not even at those networking events? And that's the big thing I've seen with this strategy of being everywhere, and the biggest part of the value that you guys have is the touch points that you can have with the people that you meet on a regular basis. Next. Questions?
So I have a question about kind of these specialty sites.
Yeah.
So in the law, there's a lot of them. In fact, I hear about some I've never heard of often.
Yeah.
Someone will call into the marketing and going, "Report you're on this, and I've never heard of it."
Yeah.
So my question is, do you think that they're useful tools, and what's the best way to find them and utilize them? Because my concern is that the average consumer won't know about them, even though every attorney knows their name.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So to find them, I would just Google your industry, and then whichever ones pop up in the beginning of search results. Their acquisition strategies are twofold. One, they are spending more money on Google Ads than everyone else, as in the case of the one that, what's the name of it? ZBuyer. ZBuyer is the one that we've been working on now, as ZBuyer. So they just outspend everyone else, and they have this acquisition model down pat, where they can acquire it on Google Ads and then sell the lead back to multiple realtors, and they know their margins. Or SEO is their main source. So I would focus more, so the problem with the ones like ZBuyer is that they're eventually going to price themselves out of a lot of the small businesses because they're paying for ads, so their costs are there, so they're going to have to keep rising their costs at a certain point as the ad platforms that they're buying from rise. Then, so if you have organic ones, those are the ones I would look at because the acquisition for them is probably through more organic results, and as long as they maintain their rankings in organic, people are finding them by typing in, like lawyer near me, and then they're finding them, and then that's how they're finding about the site. So that's how I would do it, is looking to see who's in the organic search results. Yeah.
Rob, the radio stations, like WTOP, has websites, and they do a lot of digital marketing at the same time besides radio announcers. Do you work with them?
I mean, very, very, very small. Like I've had conversations, we've done some I won't say co-marketing, but they run radio spots, we've done landing pages, but it hasn't really been terribly intensive. Yeah.
Rob,
Yep.
where would I go if I wanted to target attorneys?
You want to target attorneys?
Yeah. Advertise to attorneys.
LinkedIn. LinkedIn would probably be the place that I would go. The targeting on LinkedIn is, for B2B, is very, very good, like where you can get super granular. But I would even go, as a local business, I'd even layer on top of it, depending on your industry. So you would go, attorneys in this geolocation, and then I'd just put out a ton of content. And I think the one thing I want to be clear on is that we get caught up in the targeting piece of it, but targeting somebody very granularly and then putting one ad in front of them or one piece of content and then never putting anything else in front of them and then saying the platform didn't work is a huge mistake, right? You have to target, but you have to give value, tons of content over and over again, as much as you possibly can.
What is the deal where when you go on the LLB or you go on the Auto Trader and you're looking at specific cars or a specific code or something, and then all of a sudden, all these platforms you're on will have banner ads with that specific car, that code, or whatever the hell it is that you looked at.
Yeah.
You know, what is it that, and that must be a fairly expensive.
No.
It's not.
No, so that's called retargeting. So retargeting. So basically, if I have a website and I take there's code snippets from Facebook, which is the same as Instagram, Google Ads, all these guys. They have pixels that you put on the site, and then basically when you go to a browser, they put a cookie on you, and then that cookie just tracks you around the web and then shows ads.
Do you have to allow that cookie?
You have to opt out of the cookie.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but that's a whole thing. There's a whole thing Google is talking about now of changing their retargeting, and they're trying to find a solution for that. But yeah, that's the mechanism. Yeah.
Somebody like with the plumbing industry, I can go on, I can just sign up for Home Advisor, which is also Angie's List.
Yeah.
And I could get 100 leads a day if I spend enough money.
Yeah.
Granted, I'm only going to get about 10% of them. They're taking such a huge market share away from the building industry, as an example, but probably more. How do we compete with something like that? Because they're paying for all those leads to come in. So if I want to go, how do I is there a way to get around them without spending the $1,000 a day?
Yes. But it's going to take a lot of work, but you have to build brand. So that's the biggest thing as a small business, and what goes back to putting out as much content as possible. Right? You want people searching for you, not going onto these other platforms, right? Or you want to be putting out so much content to people that they're the first person in mind. You're the first person in mind when they need somebody, so they go directly to you. That's the only way. The reality is, we are all commodities. Every single one of us. There's a million lawyers, there's a million realtors, there's a million marketers. So the only way that we can cut through the noise is by putting out content and being better than everyone else in terms of putting ourselves out there and creating value for the audience that we're going after. Any other way, we're reliant on these guys who are basically going to be able to outspend us every single day for this kind of stuff. Okay. And so, and as an example, right, I'm recording this right now. This is going to be a piece of content for me, right? So I'm going to take this, I'm going to record it, I might take it, chop it up. So this is now a piece of content that I can put out on LinkedIn, on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook. And so I'm building brand based on something that I'm going to be doing anyways. And I think there's a lot of opportunities for us on our day-to-day where we don't think it's very important or valuable, but it actually is. It could bring a lot of value. And just thinking about that, taking the time to post it, post-produce it so it's nice and up to minimum quality, and then putting that out is very, very high value activity for all of us.
Wouldn't you say, though, that the key to us here is building those brands within niche markets that you can access rather than trying to,
Correct, yes.
The key there is you don't want to be spread all over the place where you're not even operating.
Yeah, correct. So,
you need to keep, okay.
So think about it this way, right? So let's say you were to connect with every single person you had a policy with on LinkedIn. Right? And then you put out very valuable content for them on LinkedIn, so anyone who sees it, and let's just say LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever your audience is hanging out, right? So now what's going to end up happening is it's not going to be this direct sales model of somebody's going to click and come to your site and convert. People are going to see it, and then when a friend is talking to a friend and saying, hey, I need a new insurance policy, do you have a guy? Oh yeah, I have a guy, I have a policy with him, and he's fantastic, right? Just puts out, they don't have to say he puts out a ton of value, but the fact that you are putting out a ton of value, they're just going to say, yeah, he's that guy. Like go work with Lewis, right? And so it's not a matter of we are naturally inherently when we put out content, it's going to be niche. The way it wouldn't be niche is if I were to put out content on LinkedIn or Facebook and then run an ad to the entire United States, right? So the idea is that again, the connections that we have on a daily basis, leverage them in the digital world to continue that networking influence that you would have, right? Anybody else?
We're just about out of time. It's 8:15.
All right.
One last question, or are we good?
I'd like to mention something if I can.
Sure.
And we talked about this, and I feel like it's relevant because most of the discussion has been around promoting the business, promoting the service, promoting the product, right? And we spoke about brand loyalty, and I feel this is as relevant as the actual information about the product, where brand loyalty can be influenced and can be enhanced, I believe, from what we discussed, in the sense that you're giving possible future clients some value before they even spend anything. And this is, if you're everywhere, it doesn't necessarily have to be we're selling this service or we're selling this product. It can just be about what you offer as a value, and they kind of understand it before they invest. And I feel like this also brings a bucket of business that you're maybe even not expecting. And I wanted to understand if I got this correct.
Yeah, I think we can interchange brand loyalty, reputation, like networking in a non-sleazy way, right? We can interchange all of those in the same concept of what we're doing is we're building relationships, and we're doing in the way that we build relationships in a day-to-day basis, right? By seeing each other, showing up, adding value, not being a dickhead, like all of these different things. Like that's how you build a relationship, and that's what you should be doing as a business, or even a personal brand, whatever it is. You might be great for building your personal brand. Others might be great with the business. Just depends.
And I think though that different demographic groups have different ideas on what value is.
Correct. Value.
I'm going to tell you, millennials don't find the same value as baby boomers when it comes to solving problems. They're willing to just go to.
Correct. So value is subjective, best is subjective, but that's another reason to put out as much content as possible because you don't know what's going to resonate with who. You might post something that nobody likes, but then you see somebody in person and they're like, hey, I saw your stuff, got a ton of value out of that. Like, thank you. And I've actually had done that before, where I posted something and then some random person that I hadn't seen forever was like, I saw your video, it was really fantastic, thank you, right? So that's again the case for putting out as much as possible because you don't know what's actually gonna be a hit, right?